You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Judge. This is Judge Man Burning, and we have brought a whole bunch of people here today. The cases are real. The people are real. We have 8 cases tonight in court, ladies and gentlemen. We are filmed in front of a live studio audience right now. We got the jury here. We have both of our. I don't know what the other ones do. We have a defendant and we have somebody else. Well, prosecutor, is that what it's called? We have a prosecutor and a defendant. We have 2 people that are going to be arguing all night long, ladies and gentlemen. We got 8 cases. Welcome to the stream. Please welcome our first case here. We have Wise Wizard representing Celsius, and we have Poofed representing Fahrenheit. How we're going to do this, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to hear from each side. They're going to plead their case. Wizard is going to give 5 minutes. Poofed is going to give 5 minutes. And then I can ask each side questions. And then you guys could ask each side questions. If for whatever reason they want to bring up a witness, they can. If they have witnesses. If not, that's fine as well. All right. Let's
Wizard,
begin.
you can start.
All right. Well, I think that I apparently am the prosecution here, going up against Fahrenheit. Since I do think that needs to be defended. So yes, I will start. Okay. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to go against Fahrenheit in defense of.
I don't believe a word you say. You're full of baloney.
I think I just want you to all bear in mind one word while we are or one phrase while we're having this conversation, and that phrase is round numbers. Now, the reason I say that is because one of these measurement systems uses round, easy to remember, easy to conceive numbers, and the other uses completely seemingly random, weird numbers that scale in an odd way, that are difficult to remember, don't really seem to make sense. And the latter is Fahrenheit. So let's just start. The boiling point for Fahrenheit is 212 Fahrenheit. 212. What an odd number. It's not a round number. It's 212. Like, who came up with that? Absolutely bizarre. The freezing point for Fahrenheit, 32. 32, a positive number. If someone says, "Oh, what's the temperature?" and you say 32, do you immediately think, "Oh, that sounds freezing"? No, you think, "Oh, okay, that sounds kind of warm." Whereas Celsius, by comparison, the boiling point is 100. Nice round number. Nice round number, easy to remember. You kind of can think of it on like a scale of percentages. Whereas 100, it's the 100%. So it starts to boil, turn from liquid to a gas. Perfectly describes, the state of the element. And just like that, freezing is 0. So that is when it becomes a solid. So it makes the most sense because it perfectly describes on a scale from 0 to 100 how the element itself actually transitions from one state to another. At 0 degrees, it is a solid. At 100 degrees, it becomes a gas, and everything in between, it's a liquid. That just makes so much sense.
You know you're a liar.
I mean, It's also much easier to remember. Like, 0, that's when it's freezing. 100, that's when it's boiling. I've actually had to look up the boiling and freezing point for Fahrenheit because it's so obscure I could never have remembered that off the top of my head. So that is my main argument here. But I mean, like, what more needs to be said? It just makes the most sense when you think of it in terms of numbers, round numbers, how easy it is to remember. And also, when you look at it scientific, what these are actually trying to describe. The state of one thing changing into another thing. And then how hot it is in between those things. And I mean, I feel like there's a reason that most of the world prefers Celsius over Fahrenheit. Because it just makes the most sense. I actually don't need to go any further. And that's my intro. Thank you very much.
I got a lot of people from the jury complaining right now. Order in the court. Everyone's bitching. They already want to give Celsius a life sentence. Let the man speak, guys. PP's called you a liar, wizard. Arthur says that he's already lost. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Let's. Yeah, we're gonna throw the book at this jury, guys. You guys got to remain unbiased, guys. Listen to both arguments, okay? Wizard is making sense so far, guys. I'm not here to be biased myself, but let's look at the picture here, okay? Let's look at the picture. Poofed. Let's hear from you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Fahrenheit. The less used system of measurement, but the better one. Many famous people in history have fought for their opinion, when outnumbered. Try Alexander Hamilton, who fought at the Constitutional Convention for a new form of government, while incredibly outnumbered. Now, unlike Wizard, I'm assuming he's going to try to defame me, or use futile arguments against my, against this. But I don't need to do that. All I need is simple fact. That is all, Your Honor.
What? What were the facts? Those aren't even facts. Let's hear some facts. What kind of argument is this, Poofed?
That's fair. I try to be a fair
If the
person.
defense wants to draw his opening there, he's welcome to.
No. I got it. Now, media shapes the way that we think about things.
You're fibbing.
And one popular form of media who favors the form of Fahrenheit is a certain song by a beloved musician by the name of Queen. Queen, in his song, Don't Stop Me Now, use the lyric, I'm burning through the sky. Yeah, 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit.
I mean, Poof does prove a point here. Queen is an English band. They should be using Celsius in their song, should they not?
Now, Mr. Fahrenheit is way more recognizable. Imagine being called Mr. Celsius. That does not go off the tongue well.
We don't have any witnesses right now.
End of discussion.
Ostrich, but they are free to call witnesses if they want to. Good argument, says Caitlin. End of discussion, says PP's. Sounds like an alcoholic drink. So Poofed, how do you get how do you get across by?
Wait, we're already starting the questioning stage.
How well you haven't been. You said you were done. You said you were done. You gave like 2 lines and you said, "Thank you, I'm done."
Okay, if we're officially done, declare the stage done and move on to the next stage, MB.
Yes, the stage is done.
All right. So MB, do you want us to do a asking each other questions, or do you just wanna
you two can ask each other. You could ask each other's questions right now if you want.
That was the initial plan. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, may I ask you a question?
Hey, one at a time! One at a time!
Since I am the prosecution, I should be the one asking the questions first, but yes, if you can ask your question, go ahead.
Wizard, I would like to ask you, what is a bigger number? 100 or 37?
Well, the bigger number is 100.
Yes, that is actually correct, Wizard. Now, if someone tells you, like, if you ask, say you ask someone, oh, how hot is that stove? How hot is that pan? And if they say 37, are you gonna, oh my god. Now, if they say, oh, it's 37 without clarifying the heat, would you think that was cold or hot?
Well, I think that was a lukewarm temperature. Pretty hot, but not,
A
not
lukewarm temperature.
super hot. Well, I would think it was 37 degrees, which is pretty hot, but not hot enough to cook something in.
Now, would you want to touch something that is that hot?
No,
It wouldn't be pleasurable.
most likely
Now,
not.
with this, is how I bring up that, that since Celsius is the lower amount of numbers, it could be recognized as colder because lower equals a lower number in the mind correlates with colder. Now,
Yes, your point.
Now, my point here is that why would you want something with a low number to represent a high heat?
Well, it's not a high heat. It represents that point in the stage of transition between a liquid, solid turning into a gas. It's not about there. Well, I mean, it represents the heat, but, you know, this is a measurement based on science.
Look, I'm just saying that lower numbers usually correlate to things that are lower. 1 penny is not much money. 1 cup is only a singular cup. But what's it called? 1 Celsius is 33 degrees, which is cold, but not very cold. Do you see the point I'm trying to make here?
Not really. I feel like you're just simply overinflating the value of these numbers. I feel like if you recognize the scale and you recognize what boiling means and the fact that boiling is 100%, then you know how hot 32 degrees is in comparison to it. You know
I don't
that is...
understand your
It's not going to
English.
be hot enough to, like, instantly scald you, but you still wouldn't want to touch it. I think that it actually explains I think it explains the heat very well. Whereas I feel like your measurement of 32 doesn't explain anything. I mean, what does that mean? Like, what does this arbitrary number of 32 mean? You don't have a proper scale because you can't claim that it's on a scale of, like, percentages, 0 to 100. Therefore, 32 is just arbitrary. No one, without understanding the system beforehand, would have any idea what that means. For example, if I was to say to a random person that had never had Fahrenheit before, this is 147 degrees, they wouldn't have a clue what that meant. They wouldn't have a clue how hot that was in comparison to anything. They might, and because they don't have a clue, they might think that's safe to touch. They might go ahead and just touch that because they just have nothing to go with. But you can very quickly and easily explain the concept of a 0 to 100 scale to someone. You can't easily explain this concept of a 32 to 212 scale to someone. Like, I would like you, Mrs. Poof, to explain why the 32 to 212. What is the actual... Why does that make any sense? And why do you think that makes more sense than a 0 to 100 scale, which is what everyone's used to?
Okay. So, if you're thinking hot, you want to point out how it's okay. Fahrenheit is like more accurate than Celsius. And what I'm trying to say is that Fahrenheit has bigger numbers. Bigger numbers correlate to bigger values. Bigger values correlate to a better...
Poofed, do you have any witnesses that you might want to call to maybe help you with your case?
I'm sorry.
Are you finished with your point? Because you seem to stop halfway.
Sorry, just give me a second, Your Honor. I'd like to call a short recess.
Okay, we're gonna call a witness. Who are we calling here?
I said a short recess.
Oh, a short recess. A recess. Do we do recess here, guys? I didn't know we did recess.
You're the judge.
I thought I thought we were adults here. I didn't realize we do snack time and nap time in the corner here.
Your Honor, recess is a term for a short break.
Well, it is normally the judge that determines this, and it's normally judged.
Well, I'm on a clock right now. I got other cases here that are lined up. I don't got time for no recess and lunchtime and apple snacks and apple jacks and playing marbles in the fucking recess courtyard.
Yes, I actually have more clients lined up. This was just my easy, quick case at the beginning of the day, so I would like to get on with this. Thank you very much, Judge.
Okay, Poof, if you don't have anything else to say, we're gonna probably close this argument here. My final question to you is, what makes sense for below freezing? Do you think 31 degrees sounds like it's below freezing, or does -1 sound like, what makes more sense when you're trying to relate below freezing?
What makes more sense is lower numbers. Below freezing, I would not consider as 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Or now, you as a Canadian should know how cold it can get. And you're saying that 32 degrees is below freezing.
Well, because 32 degrees is freezing. That is actually the freezing temperature. So if you're just going out and explaining to somebody how cold something is, are you going to say to someone, it's 30 degrees, or are you going to say it's -2 to correlate that it's fucking below freezing?
Your Honor, I would just say it's cold.
Well, no, once you get to -40, Fahrenheit and Celsius both agree that it's fucking cold. That's when it's cold, because they don't want to argue anymore.
Apologies to interrupt, but I think that since my opponent here hasn't adequately answered your question, I will answer it. The reason that, just like I was saying, it's all about the states of the elements. 0 degrees is the point where this solid liquid turns into a solid if you're getting colder. And therefore, it's very simple. Anything below 0, any negative number, is a solid. It's frozen. So it's very simple. It doesn't matter what the number is. If it's below 0, it's frozen. It's very, very simple. Whereas when you're dealing with the Fahrenheit, there are positive numbers that are below freezing, and that is just confusing. Someone could say, oh, it's 20 degrees. You think, oh, what? Better get my sunshades and sun hat on. No. You better get your coat on. That's freezing. It doesn't make sense. But then, just to add to the confusion, they also have negative numbers that are below freezing too. So it's just confusing. It's a system that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't accurately describe in a scientific way the states of element, which is what this temperature is designed to describe. It's just, it's very simple. I think that there's a reason my opponent couldn't answer this.
I do have a member of the jury that would like to interject for a moment. Ryan G. Would you like to come down to the microphone and add a few words?
In some trials, they do allow jury questions.
Would you like to come down? Because Ryan G actually represents both Fahrenheit and Celsius. He's one of those rare people that started off in Fahrenheit, but when he got more introduced to the Man Burning show, he actually enjoys Celsius now. So it would be nice to hear from Ryan G. Ryan G, would you like to come down to the microphone? Here. Okay. Ryan, you're neutral on the argument here. You kind of can go both ways, right?
Yeah, I'm Switzerland when it comes to it.
Okay.
It for me, Celsius and Fahrenheit, I have learned to use both because of Twitch and being a streamer, because viewers are from around the world. I got have my Americans that have been born and raised with Fahrenheit, and the same thing goes for everyone else, Canada, UK, everywhere else, Australia. So I learned both. So it basically depends on if P, right? We're to say it's 32 degrees here. I'm like, holy crap, it's cold. But if Wizard says it's 32 degrees, I'll be like, ugh, that's miserably warm.
It's funny that you say miserably warm because Mr. Ryan G is going to be representing in another court case later tonight, hot versus cold, and
there's miserable cold, there's
right.
miserable cold, and there's miserable hot.
Did you have a question for us, Mr. Ranji?
All right, I want to know, Poof. I'm trying to be neutral here because I use both. Your numbers argument isn't going to work on the grounds that if somebody was raised on C, 30 degrees is a high number to them because that's the equivalent of almost 100 degrees up for us. So using the increased numbers is a bad argument. Because if I say it's 100 degrees to Wizard, he's going to think, oh, that's non-livable because that's 212 degrees Fahrenheit to us. That's the boiling point of water. 212 is Fahrenheit, 100 is Celsius.
Okay, that didn't sound like a question.
No, the question is, how do I word this? Why did you try to use the larger number argument? Because mindset wise, most people are used to using lower numbers. So
Mr. Ranji, the reason I use that argument is because that is what I was raised on, and many others in the chat. Now, I would like to point out how this is all mostly objective, as it depends on where you're raised. But I would like to point out how Fahrenheit is used in 3 countries.
And how many countries are there in the world, Poofed?
Some may say different numbers. So there's many different numbers for how many countries in the world, because some countries people don't recognize, some countries other people do. So I would say there's not a finite number, but I would say that at least 3 countries use Fahrenheit.
Okay. Well, I would just like to say that none of my arguments have been anything to do with how I was raised. My arguments have all been to do with science and explaining, you know, what the temperature is designed to explain, which is the transition of one element, one elemental state into another elemental state into a third elemental state. That has nothing to do with how I was raised. That is scientific argument, and why Celsius is the better argument, is the better system. Full stop.
Caitlin says, can I ask a question? Can I ask Celsius a quick science question? Yes, go ahead. What is your question, Caitlin? We're going to conclude this argument soon. I think we're going around in circles.
And I'm going to argue that science uses Kelvin more than it does Celsius. And I don't know the Kelvin scale, so I'm not going to learn that.
Scientists use Kelvin, but, this is still a scientific measurement, like system of measurement. And there's a reason that scientists use Kelvin.
I got a question for Ryan G, which I know isn't really part of the argument here, but did you only start using Celsius when you came on Twitch, or did you know about it or learn about it beforehand?
I knew what Celsius was. I just never knew what the conversion was. I learned it because a lot of people I watch are from Canada and Australia, and I hated it when people would say, "Oh, it's pretty cold. It's pretty warm out, 25." I'm like, huh?
So, question for you being neutral, do you think the Celsius scale makes sense?
I think both scales make sense.
All right, okay.
Okay.
No, with all due respect, Ryan is not one of the
Well,
teams. So.
all right, Caitlin's got a question here for Celsius. She says, you said that 0 is a good base because anything under that is solid. What about all the elements that aren't solid at freezing and become solid way under 0?
Oh, that's a good question, Caitlin. And yes, I should have specified we are talking about the boiling point of H2O, water. But the reason that this is useful is because water is like the most used element, basically, in pretty much like, in human living. It's extremely essential to life. It's extremely essential to the way that we live our lives. We have to drink water. Our bodies are made up of huge percentages of water. And so that is why it makes the most sense to actually have a temperature scale based on the boiling point of this common and very useful and prevalent element in society. Of course, yes, other elements have different boiling and freezing points, so you have to obviously adjust the scale depending on that, but you can make exactly, there's no difference there. You'd also have to adjust the scale for Fahrenheit as well. For those elements, it doesn't really make a difference. Water is just a really good neutral and base element just to base this off, just because it's such an important part of life.
Okay, we're going to conclude on that. I hate to do this, but I'm going to open it to the jury. We're going to get a poll here on what you guys think is the winner here of these two arguments. Do not post your preference in chat. Wait for the poll.
Your Honor, if I may, have one more closing argument.
You got one more closing argument? Okay. Poof wants one more thing to say before we...
So, Wizard, I would like to ask you one more final question.
Yes, well, if in that case, I get to have the last word.
Yes, you can also have another question.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll just end answering your question.
Do you agree that using a system that uses multiple decimals in some points of heat would be efficient for conversation?
No, but I mean, you could,
okay.
but you can also use decimals in Celsius. It's just that most people round about.
That's what I'm saying. Celsius is the one that uses decimals, and if you have to say a specific heat, you'd have to say, oh, it's 34.4444 Celsius, instead of saying, oh, it's 94 Fahrenheit, or same with a number like 22 Fahrenheit, you'd have to say, oh, it's negative 5.555556.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that basically my response is this: the Celsius system is set up to be practically the most useful and easy to understand system. If you have a specific reason that you need to get down to that level, there are other units of measurement, such as Kelvin, hence why they use that on a scientific level. But just to describe basic temperature in, a simple way that everyone can use the most efficiently and, in general life, there's practically no difference between 34.444 degrees and 35 degrees, right? So you would just round it up or down. And it practically, on a practical level, which is what we're arguing here, that just makes the most sense. Like, if we were arguing for like the, what's the best measurement to do if you're doing a scientific research project at a PhD level, maybe we'd be arguing different things then. I wouldn't be arguing for Celsius then, but we're not. We're arguing for the overall best system of measuring temperature for the vast majority of people And this is the most useful and practical and easy to understand system for the majority of the world.
Period. End of discussion.
That's my closing statement.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the discussion there. We're going to move on. Ostrich says, if we're arguing practical everyday use temperature, I have my answer locked in. Okay, we are going to open this up to the chat, the jury, to decide the fate. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a 3-minute poll for who won, Celsius versus Fahrenheit. I'm trying to remain neutral on the argument, but who do you guys
You're the judge
think?
at the end of the day, Amber. You can take the jury into account, but you make the final call.
Wizard is sophisticated.
And I would ask the jury to please be neutral. Base your opinion not of how you grew up, but the arguments made today.
While we're waiting for the poll, let's get a word from our sponsor, Dog Food. Has your dog ever been hungry? Well, we have the solution for you. With Kibbles and Bits, Super Kibbles and Bits, now available at all major retailers in America, your dog will never go hungry again. See this dog right here? He's not hungry. He ate all night long. He's not tired. He's tired now from eating. You too can get your dog nice and chill on a chair just like this. All you have to do is feed him Kibbles and Bits Super Bits. Available at Walmart, Target, and Home Depot. Back to our case.
So, yeah, we have 9 biased people, and we have 8 people that have listened to the arguments today. That's fine.
It's
Fine.
pretty. I'd say it's
You're
pretty.
the judge.
It's
You're
pretty
the judge.
even. I'd say the jury is pretty even, and as much as I would like to say that, me being born in Canada and being raised on Celsius, I hope has no reflection on my opinion here. But honestly, Wizard had the better argument. I don't feel like Poofs really brought a lot to the table. They were basically just saying, my forefathers and grandfathers invented the system. They plugged a couple wires into the computer, and boom, Fahrenheit was invented. That's what I heard. That's the gobbledygook that came out of Poof's mouth. Wizard spat facts. Poof didn't really seem like they did their homework. If the argument was better, I would have definitely sided towards Poof, quite possibly. Therefore, I am going to conclude this case by saying Celsius, Wise Wizard wins, and Poof's punishment is to use Celsius in the chat when talking about temperature-related things for the next month. So, and if you are caught using Fahrenheit, you will be timed out for the rest of the stream. So, Poof, that is your punishment for losing the case. When referring to any weather-related discussion in the chat for the next month, which will be until the end of April, please use Celsius. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are concluding this case.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that is it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You are
I'll
welcome.
step down from the podium
you
now.
guys can have a good day.
Period. End of discussion.